Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today I have with us, he is the co-director as well as the co-production assistant on two movies. One is Manhattan ZODIAC 77, and the other one is Devil's Altar. I have with us today Daniel Brooks. Daniel, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thank you very much. How are we going today?
It's good, man. It's good. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
So first,
thank you.
You're welcome. Now, first, let's talk about the first project, which you are the production assistant on, which is called Manhattan ZODIAC 77. Tell us a little bit about Manhattan ZODIAC 77.
Well, it's one of these. Okay, breakdown of the story. A Zodiac-style killer running around Manhattan, prying on women and sending the police, gruesome little tidbits. I'm not going to give too much of the story away, but it's set in 1977. The start of the film has a little blurb about the amount of murders and crime rate in America at that time. And that's actually inspiration from an old documentary called The Killing of America. And it was a blurb at the start of it. And we always talked about doing a movie with that at the start, that being the kickoff of the movie. And over time, we just sort of came up with this story, and our movies are very organic, so we'll come up with a sort of a treatment, and we work from there. And we know where things are supposed to happen and how we want the scenes to play out. People will notice that this movie is dubbed, and it's for a reason, because all of the Astra United films are supposed to be like found footage, but instead of found footage, a found archive. So it's a found archive of Hedwig Schreck's films. The first one being released is Manhattan ZODIAC. There's two others coming out, but we'll talk about the others later. When we filmed it, it's quite funny. When we filmed it, we had in our heads there being the protagonist and an antagonist. So the antagonist being, the killer as such. The protagonist was our main female character. I can't remember her name for the life of me. About her coming to New York and, her being tied up with the killer by the end. When we sat down and watched it, though, we realised, hang on, she's not the protagonist. The police officers are, and the boys that played Jürgen Raffner, I can't remember the other guys that play the police officers, did a fantastic job. Actually, everyone did a fantastic job, and the fact that we use friends as the actors, it just goes to show that friends can be there at the right time when you need them the most. And none of these guys are professional actors either, and all of them do a magnificent job. They do a bang up job. Some of them have done some drama in high school, or done some little plays and that, but nothing major. So having them come along and fulfill these roles is fantastic. The funny thing is 95% of this was filmed during the pandemic. And so there's a lot of the shots, there is not two people there being filmed. We would film one person all of their shots and film another person and all their shots and their cut-ins. But there's there's so much of the film that where you don't see more than two people on the screen. That's during the pandemic. Most of the filming is done quite guerrilla style. We just go out and film. Nobody's ever stopped us. And in a town like where we are, it's not a country town, but it's not a big city. It's somewhere in between. So people see someone doing something like this and go, oh, yeah, uni students just doing something, or TAFE students, or nobody bats an eyelid. So we've gotten away with a lot when it comes to filming out in public and not having permits as such. But the biggest challenge, as I said, was filming all these people during the pandemic, finding times to have one or maybe two people come. The only time we could get away with having more than one person was just at the right end of it, right at the end of the pandemic when it stopped. We were able to get all the boys together to do all their shots. So all the stuff with the police officers, all of that was done in one day. All of their shots in a single day, which was fantastic. They come along, did all their stuff. Thank you very much. Everyone else's stuff got slotted in. The other thing is with this film, we've done it in Super 8. Now, we tried it before, and that was with the Devil's Altar. And where we were filming the Devil's Altar was over on the coast. And if anyone knows anything about Super 8s, they don't like salt and sand. So after going through 3 different Super 8 cameras, we had to sort of ditch the idea of using Super 8 for that one and going back to sort of normal digital. Whereas this one, it's like, no, let's try Super 8 again. And when we got all the stock, and then it's like, we need stock footage. So we found a site that does Super 8 stock footage, which was perfect because it meant all the colouring, the look was going to fit with what we were going to film. And we were filming on Super 8. Now, once again, we have this uncanny knack of having problems with cameras. Mm-hmm. So we had a Kodak Super 8 that run on 8 batteries. You get a canister of film done before the battery die. It had all the bells and whistles on it, but it seemed to only film well inside and with non-natural light. So we bought another one. Yeah, a big challenge. And what other people don't realise too is with Super 8, you don't have control over things like focusing. It's like an Instamatic camera. It's got a sort of everything in focus or nothing's in focus sort of thing. So you have to really frame everything. So we had to frame everything in the Super 8 square, and then because we're putting it in letterbox, then try and stick them in a slit in the middle of that to give it the letterbox look. Mm-hmm. So one camera would work really well inside under unnatural light. So we had to get another one for outside. And lo and behold, we come across an old Russian wind-up one that was fantastic. It was brilliant. Nice. It took one sort of button-sized battery, and that was for the light meter inside. You wind it up, and you get at least a minute's worth of run before it would start slowing down, which was okay because most of our scenes when we shot them were no longer than 30 seconds anyway. So the reason why we got the wind-up Russian one is because we stupidly had a 16mm wind-up Russian film camera, couldn't find any film for it, and sold it, and then realised down the line that we can get film for it. We're kicking ourselves about it, about the 16 mil. But these Russian wind-up cameras are just amazing. They don't need batteries. You just wind them up and away you go, sort of thing. Never had any problems with the wind-up ones. Every other Super 8 that we come across, it'd have some little thing wrong with it so you couldn't film what you wanted to film. And, yeah, like I said, we have this knack with cameras. We start using one and it'll be all right for one thing, but not for another, or they completely just die altogether and we can't use them at all and have to turn to a different media. So, yeah.
So what made you, so, I mean, yes.
That's actually a prop from the movie as well.
Oh, nice. So being in Austria, and you're trying to get that 1977 look of Manhattan. Was that a challenge?
Yeah, because we had to look for things. We had to look for things that would be similar to what would be around New York, Manhattan back then. So there's, I'm pretty sure it's on the preview. There's a shot of the killer walking under some flashing lights, you know, outside of, I mean, it could be outside of anywhere in, you know, Times Square sort of thing. They had all those, the dodgy grindhouse cinemas with those sorts of flashing lights out the front. It's just lucky that we have a cinema here with those sorts of flashing lights out the front.
Oh, really?
Which you could, yeah. There's another scene where, like at the start of the film, there's a scene where a young girl's walking along a very dark section of street, and we actually chose a section not far from here of a main street with shops out the front that had old-looking shop frontage that looked like some of these places look like they haven't updated since the mid-70s. So there's shots like that. There's another shot where we're in a car park and I just happen to be looking around and I open a door and it's full of graffiti and I'm like, yeah, graffiti hasn't changed in the last 50-odd years. How about we use this? And the Hedwig's gone, oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, sure. She can be coming down those stairs there, sort of thing. So we're constantly on that lookout. Now, some of the interior it's funny, some of the interior shots actually are filmed here. So I've got a spare bedroom that is a little mini studio.
Yeah, New York.
But it's used for shots, like some of the weirdest shots. So there's a shot of the killer walking into a bar with the bar sign behind him. That was done in my spare bedroom, you know.
Nice.
There's a scene with him in the bathroom in front of the mirror, right? Once again, I live in a unit that was built in the mid-70s. So it's got that mid-70s look to it in my bathroom. So when he's in front of the mirror, it's just luck, pure dumb luck that, you know, my place was built in the mid-70s, so we could use some of the little bits and pieces around here. Another friend's place was also built in the mid-70s and nothing's changed in it. So it was perfect to use for like one of the last scenes. Other scenes are done at Hedwig's place because of the way the doors are. It looks like the inside of sort of an apartment building because they're big, heavy doors. The house in itself is 150 years old. Like, it's one of the oldest houses in the area. It's just got these big, heavy doors that look like the ones you would see on, you know, a TV show from the mid-70s. You know? some of the interior shots as well. Like Hedwig had to go and buy wallpaper that was from the mid-70s as the backdrop, right?
Because a lot of people don't realize.
Phones? We found a mid-70s phone. You know, we use nothing in this is out of date, out of time.
Wow.
We got clothes from the mid-70s. We got props from the mid-70s. We got the wallpaper, which was 1.5 meters. What's that? About 5 foot. Costs like $80 because it's not made anymore.
Because New York was, most people don't know. Like, so I was born in the 80s, so, but you know, I know what Manhattan used to look like, right, in the 80s. And most people who don't know, Manhattan, Times Square, all that, I don't even think it was called Times Square, but Manhattan, New York did not look like it does now with all of the tourists. It's a touristy place. It was not a place for tourists. There was pimps and prostitutes and drug dealers and crime. There was pornography shops, and brothels, and it was all of that. So it was a very dangerous and distinct. The same place that people all across the world come and travel to now and get to stand with Mickey Mouse in Times Square. You would not want to stand in Times Square in the 77s and in the 70s and even the 80s, early 90s. Times Square, that area of Manhattan, was not a safe place to be.
That's it. And when we did a test viewing of it, it was quite funny because one of the people that came and watched it turned around and said, "How did you get that look?" It's like, what do you mean? Well, I was in Manhattan in the mid-70s and you got the look down pat. What, did you go over there and film it? And we just looked at each other and laughed. It's like, no, it was all filmed around here. And she goes, "Guys did an amazing job. I can't believe." She's walking off and she's like shaking it. "I can't believe how much it looks like Manhattan back then." You know, that's the sort of feedback that just went, okay, we've got it. You know, we've got it spot on. We've had a couple of reviewers say, you know, "I know people from that time," or "I was there during that time." And yeah, they've got the look down pat. The fact that it's supposed to be a German movie filmed in New York, dubbed in English, made by Australians, it's just full of what the hell's.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, we've had to make ourselves stand out a little bit from everyone else. Hedwig was always into filming. Hedwig always had done short films up until we filmed Delirium 13. Delirium 13 is our first film that we're full-length film that we did. So before that, it was always sort of short films that she did. And then I met her 10, 11 years ago now. I went over and visited her one day and she pulls out this. She goes, "You know, you're into horror. Let's sit down and watch this." And we put on The Raven by Uli Lamel and sat there and watched it and laughed all the way through it and went, "What is this? How is this being released and distributed? This looks like some high school kid did it." You know, we can do better. And Hedwig's gone, "Yeah, we could." I'm like, "Well, let's do something." And so she says, "I've already started something, but do you want to come in and help with production?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, what do you know?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a photographer, so I know a lot about lighting, you know, whether it's film or whether it's still." So I come in on that side of it. And then when things like special effects came up, we'd ping pong off each other and go, oh yeah, this is the best way to get this look and get this done. And things just snowballed to the point where I have sort of my roles and Hedwig has her roles, sort of thing. And yeah, out of it, we've produced 3 movies over the last 10 years, sort of thing. Unfortunately, Devil's Altar's sort of been put on the back burner a bit because just due to time constraints, we haven't had the time to sit down together and properly edit it out and fine-tune it, especially with the dubbing, because you got to work out the dubbing and the script, so you get a little bit of mismatched mouth and audio.
Yeah,
but not too much. So we just haven't had the time to sit down and do that at the moment. That's why we're releasing things sort of haphazardly and higgly-piggly.
Yeah.
Out of order, very out of order.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
But it's great
Sorry?
that you two. I bet it's great that you two have that relationship, that working bond, and that's something that talking to indie filmmakers, like you have to have that bond. You have to trust your core group. That's what makes everyone successful.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Like the amount of times that Hedwig and I have bounced off each other for scenes or dialogue or editing or even just the look. So this one was Manhattan Zodiac is supposed to have the look of a grindhouse film that would have been shown in Times Square back in the day, at one of the little grindhouse theatres there. And we wanted that mid-70s look as well, with not only with using Super 8, but even the stock footage. So the stock footage we got is from 1977, and it's Super 8. So it all matches up with the colouring and that. Delirium 13 is a silent film in black and white with text cards in between. From that very early period of filmmaking. Devil's Altar is supposed to be that sort of later 70s satanic panic sort of look and feel to the film. Like I said, we did want to try and do that in Super 8. It would have been fantastic if we had have. Would have been even better if we had kept that 16mm camera in it. But I dare say we would have come across the same problems, with sand and salt in it. But our sort of shtick is that we're trying to film things in the media that independent filmmakers would have filmed in, during different time periods. I can actually show you. That's the next camera we're filming with.
Wow.
So the next one we're filming is Demelza. I'm actually doing miniature painting at the moment for one of the scenes. So we're using miniatures. We're using a high-end but quite compact video camera to film it all. And then we'll get it transferred to digital as such and do all editing that way. But we want to try and have this thing of trying to film with what independent filmmakers would have used during certain periods of time. So Demelza is our 80s film, done on VHS, but still with that sort of old school Hammer horror shtick to it, sort of thing. yeah, it's we're trying to go for
a retro
we're
look.
trying to go for retro look using the same media. Like we've tried, you know, degradation on editing suites, and it doesn't quite get the right feel and the right look compared to actually using the media that was used back in the day. Unfortunately, at the moment, this you can play with it and degrade and this, that, and the other, and it still doesn't have quite the same sort of look and feel as using the media that was used. I mean, I would love to be using an old school Betamax video camera. Simply because I know that the quality is out of this world. You know, they were still using Betamax video cameras for a lot of the film crews, a lot of the news crews for around this area, because that's how high quality it was. And it was only when everything switched over to digital, and this is only 15 years ago. This is not that long ago that they switched over to using digital cameras. Trust me, I've had my eye out for one for quite a while now, so it'd be fantastic if we could film on that. But we're trying to get certain sort of feels with each of our films. Funnily enough, when we sat down and watched Manhattan Zodiac again, we've got this in our heads, we've got this idea that it's, you know, a grindhouse film. When I sat down and watched it, I'm like, I said to Hedwig, "You're going to hate me." She goes, "Why?" I said, "Do you know how I reckon this plays?" And she's like, "What?" I said, "Well, considering we weren't allowed to have any full frontal nudity or gore, because that was the deal with the stock footage people. We could use the stock footage. We just weren't allowed to have full frontal nudity or gore." It's like, yep, that's fine. It played out like a midday matinee movie that used to play over here, a lot over here during the day. And every now and then you'd get this sort of thriller, suspense, horror, sort of almost giallo sort of film play, you know, as a midday matinee. And I've gone, this plays like a midday matinee movie. You do realise that? And she goes, "Oh, it does too." So not only did I go, okay, well, we've got the antagonist, but the protagonists aren't the girls, it's the cops or basic striker. And it's not a grindhouse film, it's a midday matinee movie.
But that's something.
But that's the way I've critiqued it.
Yeah, but that's something unique. I mean, now, I mean, and like, you know, that's something right now when it comes to any horror, and it comes in horror in general. Like, how do you become, I don't want to say original, but how do you stand out? Because I mean, that's the biggest thing right now in horror, because there's so much horror being made and put out there. So, like, how do you stand out and from the crowd? And like, you definitely have to have that new look. You have to have something different, and that's something that your team is doing. Now, the question I do have to ask is, so I mean, you have a Manhattan Zodiac 77. You have Devil's Altar, and you also have the other one. Get a break. Yes. How? And you're kind of doing these projects out of order. Is it hard to jump from project to project to project and keep everything intact?
No, because so Delirium 13 took us 2 years to film because we're trying things out. We're really experimenting with what we could get away with. We filmed a lot. Like, there is so much of that film that's basically on the cutting room floor, because we realised a lot of what we did was just either had nothing to do with it, didn't look good, didn't fit right. Scenes that we thought would run a bit longer, we cut down. So then the editing process, 10 months for that side of it. So there's been gaps in between making these films. I think it was a year and a half or 2-year gap between us doing Delirium 13 and Devil's Altar. And then it was another 3 or 4 year gap between making that and this one. Okay. So a lot of the principal filming was done like over 2 years ago during the height of the lockdown. And the way we start with these is Hedwig will have an idea, and she'll do a little bit of filming, but not with any actors, and she'll put together sort of like the opening credits for something. Or so Manhattan Zodiac started out as opening credits. And like that was the first bit of filming that was done. There was no filming. It was just her putting the credits together and going, what do you think about this for an opening? And I looked at it and went, oh, yeah, that's perfect. Like, that's great. Is this for the new project? Yep, I've got some ideas. We'll talk about it when we catch up next. Devil's Altar is different because Delirium 13 and Manhattan Zodiac were ideas that Hedwig had already. She'd had very short treatments done for them, whereas that was a 50-50 thing. She came up with an idea and we bounced off of each other for 2 days with ideas and, you know, where the storyline was going to go, who was going to play certain roles. I've been roped into, not roped in, I've had parts in all 3 films. Unfortunately, with Manhattan Zodiac, there was a scene that was cut out with me in it. With Delirium 13, I play the father of the killer in a like a dream flashback. So when Hedwig said, well, do you want to be the main character in this? I'm like, or one of the main characters in this? I'm like, well, hell yeah, if I'm having input into it, I'm going to be up there in front of the camera. So all the scenes were, you know, we'd bounce off each other to work out every single nuance of every single scene that we filmed. The story was ideas from both of us, you know. So that is a real 50-50 film with that one. Whereas the other ones, it's sort of 50-50, but in a different role. So where I'm not with Devil's Altar, I'm in front of the camera and I'm behind with Hedwig, you know, setting up the shots, and we're setting up the scenes together. And that with Delirium and Manhattan, where she has the idea in her head, she knows what needs to be filmed, and I fill in the gaps, sort of thing. So, like I said before, I do things like I was saying before we started. I do things like we'll set up a shot. I know that the person coming for the scene is on their way. It'll be righto. Where's the first camera going? Where's the camera going to be? Where's the actress going to be? at the start of the shot? Where do you want it to be at the end of the shot? You know, place little markers or put, you know, have marking points, help with lighting. I've been body doubles.
I've been of everything.
Yeah, I've been there's been times when the actors can't figure out how to get the light bouncing off of a blade right, and I'll be like, I know exactly what you need, and I'll be the hand of a knife that does this, but it's shining just right off the light as it's coming down. Working in photography, working with lighting quite a bit, I knew sort of how to get the angles right. So I used to be a body double, that sort of stuff. I would also, you know, set up, sort of help set up scenes. So before an actor and actress would get to the set or to get where we were filming, I would ask Hedwig, okay, where are you putting the camera? Look down the viewfinder and tell me, is this where they're going to come in from? Where they're going to come out from? You know, where are they going to be closest to the camera? And I'd set up those marks. A lot of the stuff I'd do would be just filling in those little gaps that Hedwig would need me for, whether it be like legs of the killer walking down the street because we couldn't get him at that time. She'd need someone, all right, well, I just need to film your legs for walking behind, you know, the actress. And I'd do that. I'd be, you know, the stabbing hand or the grabbing hand, or there's so much of me in these films, even with me not being in them as such. Yeah, so it's 50. We work together and bounce off together really well. And we've done that since we did Delirium 13. And it's great fun. Like, we both enjoy it. Mind you, there are stressful times, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's with anything.
Yeah. Getting people to sets has been sometimes a bit of a struggle, trying to deal with, you know, people's time constraints and stuff as well. But it's always fun. It's always, you know, you always get the butterflies and the anxiousness before we do a test screening. If we're doing a big lot of filming all at once, I seem to be the calming element for Hedwig, because she'll have so much going on in her head that she'll forget things, or she'll start getting flustered. So I'll go over and calm her down and go, right, what needs to be done? And she'll tell me, and I'm like, right, you just worry about this. I'll go and do this, and I'll have everyone set up in 3.5 seconds, you know. So there's been a lot of times where she hasn't had me there, and she's like, oh, God, geez, I wish you were there the other day. You would help me so much out with these guys. They were just painful to work with. You know?
And it's amazing. I mean, like I said, it's amazing that you two have that bond. And because of that bond over years, you know,
yeah,
it's something that has allowed you to build something, create something unique for the audience to see.
And that's what we want. We're not for, like, our films aren't made for your run-of-the-mill cinema goer either. Like, we're aiming for people like us that like films, like indie films, and like horror indie films, you know. But Hedwig especially doesn't like horror after a certain time, and I think it's like 92 or 93, and it's that inception of using CGI within horror. And we're both on the same stance of CGI is all right, but real special effects is where it's at, You know,
practical effects. Yes, I'm a huge
yeah,
fan.
practical special effects is where it's at. You know, and that's what we've tried to do with everything. Is there's as much as possible. Actually, all of our special effects are practical. I don't have the ability or the skill to be doing, you know, CGI. Neither does Hedwig, and neither of us have the money to be paying someone to do CGI. That's the other thing people don't really know. We're not a low budget indie film. We're a no budget. All of the film we don't get grants. We don't get crowdfunding. All of the stuff that we do comes out of our own pocket. So in that respect, we call ourselves zero budget, because where we can find stuff for free or next to nothing when it comes to props and that sort of stuff, trust me, we'll do it. There's a prop in Devil's Altar, and it's Hedwig said, "You've got to talk about this prop," and it's a staff with a pentagram and an upside down cross in the middle of it, and I made it. I made it because I knew the character needed a staff of some sort. Got to make it witchy and satanic-y. So I went out and out the back of our place over on the coast, backed up onto bushland. So I just went out and find appropriate length sticks and a long enough stick to use as the staff itself, and some fencing wire, and sat there and built and made the staff as such. Which was quite funny because we had some fundamentalist Christians living next door to us. So the looks that we got when we're in costume and me walking out with this staff, I can tell you it wasn't daggers, you know, looking at us. It was swords, like the looks that we used to get sometimes. We would even, you know, go to the local fish and chip shop, takeaway shop, all in costume and rock in and go and get some food at the end of shooting. The whole shooting for Devil's Altar was fantastic. Everyone that was part of it were committed from day one. It was our shortest shooting time that we've done so far. So Delirium 13 and Manhattan Zodiac took nearly 2 years to film. By the time we got all the filming done, Devil's Altar took us less than 6 months. We had a day set aside each week. Everyone would rock up, and I mean everyone, from whether they were supposed to be in front of the camera or not. Everyone would rock up every Sunday, and we go out and we get out to our filming locations and we just flat out film. It was the most professional, most easygoing, you know, stuff was done exactly how we wanted it. It was done it was so enjoyable to do that because there was something about it. I think it was a level of professionalism that was with filming that made it so quick to film, and so enjoyable. So that whole experience with that was completely different from doing the other ones, because the other ones were trying to deal with people's timetables, basically, you know, and working around people working, and that. It was just lucky that neither of us worked on a Sunday. All the people that were in front of the camera, all the actors and that, didn't work a Sunday. So we were able to film, you know, regularly every week, rain, hail or shine. We would be out filming. And yeah, and it was, by the time it was the last shots were done and in the can as such, we're like, we're done already. We're done already. This has taken us 6 months. You know, we'd planned for 18 months worth of filming on every Sunday, and we did it in 6. And we're like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
So
this is something new.
yeah, it was something completely new and almost foreign to us, because the first one, like I said, we had a certain day, but then some people would have to work on a Sunday because quite a few of our friends, including myself, work in hospitality. So working a Sunday is, you know, is a thing. So working around people's timetables of, oh, they can film this week but not next week because they're working, stretched a lot of that out for both times for that 2 years of filming, where it was, you know, sometimes there'd be like 2 or 3 weeks between actually getting shots. Because
but it has to be tough. I would say it has to be tough. Because I've talked to a lot of indie filmmakers, and they bang them out in about 8 days. They go for like 12 to 16 hour days, and they, you know, no budget. They just boom, 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 knock it out. But to stretch out the production process that long, I can imagine. I mean, there's some challenges and struggles that come along.
I just think of, like, when it comes to that sort of stuff, I just think of Evil Dead and Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah,
you know, was it 18 months it took them to film that? Mm-hmm. And so it is doable. We've proven it twice that it's doable.
Yeah,
you know, one of the most famous horror films ever made proved that it's doable to the point it becomes a cult classic. You know, and we're like I said before, we're not for the irregular cinema goer. That we aim for the horror film market. We aim for those people that want to see something a little bit different to the run of the mill, you know, indie stuff that's coming out, or even big production stuff that's coming out. You know, and trust me, I haven't seen really. I don't think I've seen a decent horror movie come out of big production for a good decade or so. I think one of the last enjoyable horror films I sat down and watched is a Kiwi production called The Tattooist. That's the last decent horror movie I can say I've sat down and watched.
You definitely got to watch Ty West's X series, X and Pearl. Those movies are absolutely fucking amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And I also would recommend The Barbarian. That was a great movie. That was put out like 2 years ago during COVID. And that's a really good. Those are some good American horror movies. But yeah, I mean, you do have Train to Busan. That was a Korean movie that came out, a zombie movie. That was good.
I should backpedal a bit there. Big production Western horror.
Oh,
I haven't seen anything decent.
Yes.
Asian horror. I've been into Asian horror for a long time. Like, I seen the original Ringu, you know, before it hit. I hated the Hollywood Ring. I couldn't. I'd sat there and just, for me, it was a groan fest. So, Asian cinema. Look. At the end of the day, I'm a big weeb, and my favorite genre of anything is anime, especially horror anime. But I really enjoy Asian cinema. So things like Train to Busan, the Kingdom series that was on Netflix with the
Netflix. That was great
on Netflix. Absolutely fantastic, out of this world. You know, a lot of the South Korean horror films, whether it be, you know, ghosts or I've been racking my brains for weeks trying to think of it. It's a monster horror about a creature that's living in the sewers in Seoul, and it nabs. I cannot for the life of me remember it. But even their monster stuff with CGI looks fantastic, you know. So yeah, Asian cinema is something that I've been into for a long time. Hedwig is a huge fangirl for you know, your Italians. So Dario Argento, Bava, Fulci.
So Daniel, listen, it's been a blast to have you on. Where can everyone find you?
Find me?
Yes, on social media.
I'm on social media. I'm basically only on TikTok of all things.
Really?
Under
that's interesting.
Yeah. I've sort of pulled myself away from social media, but yeah, I'm found on TikTok under the name Freaks Incorporated. So you can find me there. But yeah, look, Manhattan Zodiac is out. It is on Blu-ray. It's everywhere. I'm pretty sure I even seen it on the Barnes and Noble website. So
really,
I'm like, because when it on the release day, I was going through all the websites. You know, who's stocking it, who's it being distributed to? It's, you know, Amazon, eBay, your usual ones, and then I got the Barnes and Noble and I showed Hedwig, and I'm like, geez, even Barnes and Noble are selling it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're yet to get our own site up as well for Astra United. So it is in the works, but yeah, basically, yeah. TikTok's about the only place you can find me on socials. And Twitch, funnily enough, as well. So I stream on there. Play a few games on there under the same moniker as Freaks Incorporated. But yeah, so people want to catch me on either of them, either playing games or acting like a fool in front of the camera. But yeah, so but the movie's out pretty much everywhere. I know it is coming out streaming very soon. I'm still trying to find it. I'm not sure, but I think it could be on Shudder. Sorry, cross fingers. Yes. It's going on Shudder.
Nice.
But that's in talks at the moment. So not sure where we're streaming yet, but definitely out on Blu-ray. Hopefully in October we're going to have a big sort of cinema world premiere. And it'll probably travel around the cinema circuit around Australia, around at the independent cinemas. I'm not sure about internationally, but yeah, so, but thank you very much, Travis. Thank you for letting me prattle on.
Daniel, listen, it's been an absolute blast. Listen, everybody, get out there and get your copy of Manhattan Zodiac 77. Daniel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I would love to have you and the director come on and we can shoot the shit.
Well, I'll have to talk her into it. It's hard to get her in front of a camera at the best of times. I think in the decade I've known her, I think I've got 2 photos of her.
Oh, wow.
You know?
Okay.
yeah. She hates being in front of the camera, but I will try to convince her.
Yes, I would love the exclusive to have her on camera. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that's Daniel Brooks. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks, guys.